Hello everyone, good morning and welcome to today's The Hindu News Analysis. Myself Nitin K. Biju, I'll be appearing for the civil service interview this year. Coming to today's news analysis, we'll be discussing about 5 important articles in the Hindu newspaper today. The name of the articles and the syllabus under which they belong to is written in this slide. Before going to the articles, I want you to pause for a second and attempt the question by yourself. This question is based on Indian polity, fundamental rights. So, as we all know, originally the constitution provided for 7 types of fundamental rights, starting from right to equality till right to constitutional remedies. In between, they have taken away right to property and all. So, this is based on that part of fundamental rights. Try to attempt the question by yourself. Now, coming to the first page of today's Hindu newspaper, Modi asked states to prepare for ramping up economic activity. In the interaction with the chief ministers, the prime minister says the country must plan for a new reality. So, as we all know, this is the uh, week that the lockdown is going to end. So, the state and the center is planning for a proper exit from the lockdown. It's not a complete exit. There will be some restrictions which will continue, but most of the economic activities are supposed to resume. Now, coming to the next article, India adds 4,213 cases in a single day, highest single day rise. Also, the state government data shows that overall infections are crossing 70,000 mark. So, the cases are increasing, and the highest case in a single day has happened on Monday. Also, following the railway services, the domestic flights may also resume soon. So, after the railway services, domestic flights are expected to resume soon, with the Civil Aviation Ministry in the process of taking a final call on when and how such flights commence. Coming to the first important article, equal freedom and forced labor. So, this is regarding the steps taken by the states under the cover of COVID 19 to remove labor laws which are said to be grossly unconstitutional. We'll be discussing in detail about this. Labor movements have been key to the successful freedom struggle, and indeed, the 1931 Karachi Declaration and the Bill of Rights, a forerunner to the Constitution of India. So, here they are mentioning about a 1931 Karachi resolution. I want you to see comment in the session who was the president of the 1931 Karachi session of the INC. So, please write in the comment section who was the president of the Karachi session. Also, uh, this session of the INC it's expressly placed labor rights on par with ordinary civil rights such as the freedom of speech and expression. In its preamble, it declared that political freedom must include even the economic freedom also. So here the economic aspect of freedom was brought into picture. So anyway, these principles eventually found their way into the Indian Constitution, under which part? Mainly under the DPSP, but also some of them comes under the fundamental rights also. One of those is Article 23 of the Constitution. So we'll be seeing what is Article 23 of the Constitution now. Then come back to the article again. So coming to Article 23, traffic in human beings and beggar and other similar form of forced labor are prohibited, and any contravention of this provision shall be an offense punishable in accordance with the law. So it's against trafficking and forced labor. Beggar is also a form of forced labor. Okay, so so as we all know, Article 23 deals with forced labor, right? So how do we understand the concepts of force and freedom in the backdrop of history? So what is meant by this force? So a narrow thinking will be something like this. It will be, I am only forced to do something if there is a gun on my head or a knife at my throat, right? So it's like this line is telling about physical force, but not every force is physical, right? So there are many other uh, dimensions of force. For example, there can be a social or even an economic character of force. So a physical dimension of force will be a impoverished understanding of freedom. Now coming to the judicial stand, in a landmark judgment, Pudia versus Union of India, the court held that right against forced labor includes the right to minimum wage. Why? Because See, as we all know, it is a part of economic dimension of the force, right? If a person is not having minimum wage, he will be forced to work under little wages, right? So the compulsion of economic circumstances, which leaves no choice of alternatives to a person in want and compels him to provide labor or service. So this compulsion for him to provide labor or service, it comes under forced labor. Also, coming to the case of a market economy, in a market economy, the workers are at a greater disadvantage. Why? Because there are two things which are important in a market economy. One is the capital, that is the money required for the market economy to work, and the labor. But here, what happens is the capital and labor do not face each other as equals, whereas the capital has more power, right, than compared to the labor. That is what is happening in the market economies now. So this amounts to a form of private government. Of late, with the rise of the platform or gig economy, the rise of casualization and precarious employment, the further fractures within the workforce, this inequality of power has only grown starker. So here they are telling about the asymmetry of power between capital and labor. So already in the market economy, the capital was more powerful. But coming to the recent times, there has been an increase in gig economy and casual labor. What is this gig economy? It's a kind of a labor where for a fixed period, fixed period of time, like it's not like a permanent job. It's like a part-time job. For example, consider the case of food delivery apps like Swiggy or any other, like delivery boys in Flipkart, Amazon, etc. So these people, they don't consider it to be a full-time employment, right? So they are doing it in their part-time. Even McDonald's delivery services or Domino's Pizza, the delivery boys, right? So these are part of the gig economy where they are not seeing it as a full-time employment, but they are doing it for part-time. So in this gig economy also, the power of the labor has come to reduce with respect to the capital, right? So the purpose of the labor laws, which arose out of a long period of struggle, often accompanied by state sanctioned violence against the workers, has always been to mitigate this imbalance of power between the capital and the labor. Also, these laws tries to achieve rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Coming to the Indian structure, what is happening recently is that it is very clear, however, is that the steps being taken by various state governments, ostensibly under the cover of COVID-19 pandemic, are grossly unconstitutional. For example, there are many states which are trying to reduce the give relaxations to the labor laws. For example, UP bought an ordinance for suspending the labor laws for 3 years, right? Similarly, other states are also trying to be more industrial friendly by relaxing the labor laws. So these steps by various states to reduce the to relax the labor laws are said to be grossly unconstitutional. What this means in practice is the economic power exercised by the capital will be left unchecked. So the in the balance between capital and labor, now labor becomes more weak, and the power of capital becomes so much more. So in short, what are these efforts done by states? They are to increase the hours of the work and reduce the rate of the wages, which are both against the laborers, right? So here the constitutionality of the efforts of the various states to relax the industrial and the labor laws are being analyzed in a very nice manner. And as we all know, article 23 is about trafficking in human beings and forced labor, right? Coming to the practice question, Article 23 comes under A. Right to equality, B. Right to freedom, C. Right to against exploitation, D. Right to constitutional remedies. So here the answer is C. Right against exploitation. So we all know that the constitution, in the fundamental rights are divided into different parts. Right to equality, starting from Article 14 to Article 19. Article 18. Then right to freedom, starting from Article 19. Then coming to right to exploitation. Then comes the right to religious freedom. Then comes the right to constitutional rights for religious institutions, minority institutions, and at last comes the right to constitutional remedies, right? So this order should be clear in your mind. Also you should know that in the original constitution there was a right to property also. Now they have removed it, and the right to property is not a fundamental right now, whereas it is a legal right. And the relevant article, that is article 300A, it should be remembered. Now, coming to the editorial of the day, a welcome change. The pandemic is an ideal opportunity to test the benefits of plasma therapy. So, we have discussed what is plasma therapy multiple times. So, we shall revise it once again. Plasma therapy, or it's also called as convalescent plasma therapy. It is a procedure, it's a therapy in which the plasma from the recovered patient, the plasma from the blood of the recovered patient is taken, and it is induced, it is given to the person who is suffering from the COVID-19, so that he will get more immunity to fight against the COVID-19, as the recovered person already have generated antibodies in his plasma, right? So that antibody of the recovered patient will be used in the patient who is still suffering from COVID-19 to help him fight better against the COVID-19. So with the ethics committee approval in hand on May 8, the ICMR cleared the last hurdle to conduct a multi-centric phase 2 trial using convalescent plasma on COVID-19 patients with moderate illness. Its three feasibility studies in about 20 severely ill patients found the therapy to be safe and able to resolve illness or improve the clinical symptoms. So the patient with moderate COVID-19 illness will be randomly assigned to receive either convalescent plasma or only a standard of care. So here what will happen is they will divide the moderately ill patients into two groups. This is in the trial phase, okay, into two groups, and one group, the 50% of them will be getting the plasma therapy, and the other 50% will be not getting any therapy, not getting the plasma therapy. And based on the performance of the 50% who receive the plasma therapy compared with the other 50%, the efficacy of the plasma therapy will be found out, so researched on. So this is how the trials will be taking place. And in these trials they'll be looking for two outcomes. One is the primary outcome, which relates to the prevention of illness from progressing into a severe form and avoidance of the deaths. So these two will be the primary outcomes, and coming to the secondary outcomes, they are the resolution of the symptoms, reduction in hospital stay, and the respiratory support. So research will be done on these two outcomes, that is the primary outcome and the secondary outcome. Also, plasma will be collected from donors 28 days after they make a complete recovery from the illness or are symptom free and have more than the required level of antibodies against the novel coronavirus. So this is very important concept. Like they should be recovered, also they should have sufficient antibodies in their uh, plasma also. Otherwise, without antibodies, it's of no use in infusing it into a moderately ill patient, because it is the antibodies which help to fight the virus, right? So, convalescent plasma therapy, we'll see the history of it now. It is about a century old. It has shown some benefit in treating measles, chickenpox, and rabies. Small studies have also shown that faster clearances of the virus in the case of MERS and SARS. So, what is this MERS and SARS? MERS and SARS are it is also, they are also diseases caused by coronavirus, right? So MERS stands for Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, and SARS stands for Severely Acute Respiratory Syndrome. So these were also coronavirus related diseases, right? So however, no benefit was seen in 2015 on some Ebola patients treated with convalescent plasma in Guinea. So the issue with convalescent plasma therapy is that there is no big study which says the efficacy of this. There have been small studies which said, okay, it is good for some diseases like MERS and SARS, and it is not effective for some diseases like Ebola. Till date, there is a dearth of randomized controlled trials that clearly demonstrate the efficacy of convalescent plasma therapy for any infectious disease, include COVID. So that is the issue with the plasma therapy. Even in the absence of any effective treatment or a vaccine, the pandemic provides an opportunity to ascertain the clinical benefits of plasma therapy through randomized controlled trials. So the editorial is telling the need to try out plasma therapy to bring out new techniques to fight the pandemic. Coming to the third article, that is the editorial of the day: consensus, not confusion. Relief trains will greatly aid stranded people, but states must have a common code for help. So, as we all know that the railways has decided to restart its passenger services in a limited manner, but still confusion exists between the center and the various states. So this confusion should be avoided, and there should be a consensus regarding this traveling arrangements. So that is what this editorial talks about. The center's move to run 15 pairs of train between New Delhi and major cities will serve as a trial for further relaxations of lockdown travel restrictions. The new trains are a lifeline for stranded citizens, although the scheme has been designed as a limited air conditioned service for higher fare paying travelers. So this is another issue which is involved with this railways restart of the passenger service. They're mostly AC services and are having a higher fare, right? So so this is not beneficial for the migrant laborers. So here also the migrant laborers are left out. Thousands of migrant workers will continue to look for the Shramik special trains to get home, and not these passenger services. As well as there are multiple challenges of operating the trains when the transmission of the coronavirus is rising. Many states have severely restricted the arrival of the domestic travelers, but their attempts at regulating entry by road through passes issued online have been severely overwhelmed, and the pass system is become dysfunctional, right? So passes were issued for outsider, like the people who are stranded in other states, to come back to the states. But what happened is a huge crowd has been seen, and there are people who are coming back without having the passes. So these are creating issues in the pass system. Also, the quarantine facilities have become under strain, and the cases of expatriates testing positive, as in Kerala, have added to their worries. So, recently, we all know that as part of the Vande Bharat mission, many people have returned to various states, especially in Kerala, and around 5 to 6 of them have tested positive for coronavirus, increasing the corona cases in states like Kerala, which have already controlled it. So, also, Telangana does not favor resumption of passenger trains. So, there are issues between states and center regarding the resuming of passenger trains. Also, Karnataka wants a compulsory 14-day institutional quarantine for travelers. While this underscores the high degree of caution that many states want to adopt, it severely restricts interstate movement. So here what they are telling is, like, the states and the center is not having a single plan on what should be the procedure which should be taken while resuming this passenger services. There are states which are having a difference in opinion, like Telangana, and there are some states like who wants a 14-day institutional quarantine for travelers. But there is a lack of an all India guidelines regarding this issue, so that guideline should be there. Also, Kerala more reasonably is asking those coming from other states by road with permission to home quarantine themselves. So after initially considering institutional monitoring. So what is the plan of Kerala? Kerala is telling that after coming, for example, in the case of Vande Bharat mission, after the people, the migrant, I mean the travelers who come from other countries, they should undergo a 7-day quarantine institutionally in the state government facilities. After that, in the next 7 days, they should undergo home quarantine, right? So that is the plan of Kerala, and different states are having different plans, and a single central guideline is absent here. As India moves into the last week of the extended lockdown, it is important for states to agree on a standard protocol on how to deal with the travelers whose numbers are bound to grow. India's peculiar circumstances, including the difficulty of maintaining physical distancing and low compliance with rules, could increase the infections rapidly. Yet, a system for orderly movement is very much necessary to relieve the social and economic pressures since the national lockdown began. Also, train and buses are the most affordable way for those stranded to return home, and such travel can be facilitated with a safety protocol in place: physical distancing, use of mask, and hand washing. And at the destination, unless medically warranted, the passengers should be allowed to self quarantine at home. So this is about the article. It talks about the need of a single guidelines throughout the country a, for clarifying, for clear guidelines related to what should happen with this people who are coming from other states and other countries. Coming to the next article, under GS2 international relations, China warns of retaliation over new US visa rules. Also, both the sides have imposed restrictions. So, what is the issue between US and China now? Now, the issue is related to journalists. Initially, China restricted the journalists belonging to US, and in retaliation, the US also restricted the freedom of the Chinese journalists in the United States. China on Monday threatened to retaliate against a US rule that tightening visa restrictions on Chinese journalists in an escalating row after Beijing expelled more than a dozen American reporters. So this is a tit for tat measure, limiting. So what happened is the US has limited visas for Chinese journalists to a maximum of 90-day stay with the possibility to request for an extension. So until now what happened was visas for Chinese journalists lasted for the duration of their employment in the US, right? Now it has been reduced to a 90-day stay. 90-day means it's only for 3 months. So foreign journalists working in China receive 1 year visas that must be renewed every year. Now this is about the journalists who are residing in China. They should renew their visas every year. Also, at least a dozen correspondents were issued press credentials that were valid for half a year or less. So initially it was supposed to be for 1 year. Now what happened is many journalists has got extension which is less than half an year. So that is why the US has also retaliated. So this comes as another issue which is in the line of which is the next one in the long line of issue faced, which is happening between China and the US. Now, coming to the next article, Mandis linked to e-platform see 65% rise in the count post lockdown. So what happened here is, as we all know, most of the economic activities moving towards online platform, whether it is education, whether it is buying of essential commodities or non-essential items. So most of the things have moved to online now. So and this effect is visible in the agricultural sector also, where the mandis or the wholesale markets, they are now linked to the e-platform, that which is the e-platform, it is e-nam, e-national agriculture market, right? So many of them, 65% increase have happened in the enam, where the mandis have registered there. COVID-19 has given a boost to enam, the national digital platform for agriculture trade, with the number of connected mandis or wholesale markets up 65% since the lockdown. So what is this enam? The National Agricultural Market. It is a pan-India electronic trading portal which networks the almost 7,000 existing mandis run by agricultural produce marketing companies, that is APMCs, to create a unified national market for agricultural commodities with a promise to promote real-time price discovery based on actual supply and demand. So it was launched in April 2016, but the progress was very slow. Only around 500 mandis have registered to it. But also, many states did not amend their APMC Act to facilitate registration to ENAM. Also, most farmers were not part of the cooperatives that would help aggregate the bulk quantity of produce needed to interest online buyers. And most mandis did not possess the infrastructure to make the most of the ENAM platform, right? So these were the issues which are faced by the ENAM platform till now. But recently, what happened? The center has recognized the potential of ENAM in overcoming some of the hurdles of the lockdown and introduced some important new features in April. So what are these important features introduced in April? One is a trading module allowing farmer producer organizations to trade the produce directly from the collection centers without bringing it to a mandi. So we know that what used to happen is the farmers have to bring the agricultural produce to the mandi first, and then the trading will happen from the mandis. So mandis acted as an intermediary between the producers as well as sellers. So in April, the relaxation was made, which said that now the farmer producer organizations, so the FPOs, they can trade directly from their collection centers, and it is not necessary to bring it to a mandi. So the intermediary has been avoided now. So this will incentivize the FPOs will to come to register more into the enam portal, because they can trade directly with the buyers, right? So because of this, the registration have increased. Also, coming to the statistics related to enam, the user base remains at a nascent stage with 1.66 crore farmers, 1.3 lakh traders, and 71,911 commission agents registered on the platform. As we all know, there are more than 13 crore farmers in India. Out of those 13 crore farmers, around 1.6 crore farmers have registered in the enam. So this is a good start, but it is not sufficient, right? Because still around 11.5 crore farmers are still left out, right? So also it is encouraging that more than 1000 FPOs, that is farmer producer organizations, are registered on the platforms. So in the coming days also, the registration in the enam platform is supposed to increase, so that which is a good step for the proper price realization for the farmers. This you can relate with the Ashok Dalwai committee, who which was constituted for doubling of the farmers income by 2022. So this higher registration in enam will help to double the farmers income by 2022. Okay, so that is all for today's articles. I hope you like the video. If you like the video, please press the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share the video with your friends. Have a great day. Thank you.